We'll move on to, is everyone here yet? So we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is the approval of the board meeting minutes. Which I'm going to hand off to Dr. Wong.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing agenda item number 7, the approval of the board meeting minutes.
Okay, so we'll let you know. Yeah. We don't look up, we just need on that.
Just say it before you with the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to accept minutes.
Are we starting?
Oh, okay, I just want to entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the last board meeting.
Is there, will someone make that motion?
So moved.
A second? Will someone second that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so anyone has, so Rachel moved it, and then Dr. McIntyre seconds. Discussion, anyone have comments?
I'm not an OD yet.
Oh, no.
Again?
It's on there again?
Yeah.
We'll remove it.
What can we do?
Have you thought about a change in profession? It comes up a lot for you.
It's all the same.
Soon Maria will also be in there, Dave. Is that within-
MD.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? All right, seeing any public comments about the minutes? No. Seeing none, do a roll call vote. Rachel?
Aye.
Mark? Aye. Ruby? Aye. Dr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Dr. Wong?
Aye.
Aye. Aye for me. Dr. Tretsky?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the minutes are approved. Agenda item number 8. We don't actually have someone from DCA here. Somebody is sick, someone is on leave. They were short-staffed, so they sent something to Jessica to go ahead with it
Okay.
here. So should I?
So it's a 2-page document that I received last night, so I'm gonna read it verbatim, so bear with me, because I have a cold. Okay, so.
I'm sorry, Jessica, did you say you sent out something last night?
No,
No,
I
DCA.
received it last night.
DCA
Yeah.
sent-
Okay.
So I printed it out for their update. Okay, and I can forward this to the members too, so they have it for future. So the GCA Directors Meeting was held on September 7th, 2016, where Director Kondani and the DCA Executive Team held its Directors Meeting with the Executive Officers and Board Presidents. The purpose of the Directors Meeting is to update board leadership on the department's activities, share important information, and answer questions. Several items contained in this update below were shared at the recent meeting. Under Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency Regulations Process Change. I wanted to update you on the Governor's Regulatory Review Program. Review and approval of a fiscal impact statement is required for all proposed regulations prior to submission of a notice of proposed action to the Office of Administrative Law. Since 2009, the Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency has waived this requirement for DCA boards. Given an increase in the number of rulemaking packages disapproved by OAL due to issues of clarity and necessity, agency has rescinded this waiver effective September 7th, 2016. Therefore, prior to noticing any approved regulatory packages at OAL, all boards must first submit them to the department and agency for review and approval. Rulemaking packages should be submitted to the department's Division of Legislative and Regulatory Review. The department is committed to ensuring this is a timely process that impacts the boards as minimally as possible. If you have any questions about the new process, please contact Adam Quinez. I apologize, I butchered the last name. DCA's Deputy Director of Legislation. DCA Distributed Cost Review and Open House. On October 26th, the department hosted its annual Distributed Cost Review and Open House for our executive officers, bureau chiefs, and board presidents. Thank you, Board of Optometry, for joining us. All programs received an overview of the department's budgeting process and pro rata. Following presentations was an open house where attendees had the opportunity to visit with the department's individual units in order to learn more about the services provided, as well as meet the individuals running each unit. DCA provided attendees with an updated version of its guide to distributed costs and services, which outlined the budget process, how costs are distributed, and the services provided by the department. An electronic copy of this guide will be distributed to all board members in the coming weeks. That is also the guide that Donna had spoke about, and she showed that's the guide that we're referring to. For the Little Hoover Commission, on October 4th, 2016, the Little Hoover Commission released its report, Jobs for Californians, Strategies to Ease Occupational Licensing Barriers. In October, the director issued a memo to all boards and bureaus providing a copy of the report and requested feedback from executive officers and bureau chiefs as well as proposed recommendations by November 1st. The Commission's report calls for a comprehensive review of the state occupational licensing system, asserting that it increasingly stands in the way of empowerment of employment and upward mobility, especially for former criminal offenders, veterans, military spouses, and those who are foreign trained and educated. The issue of reciprocity, that is to say issuing a license to an applicant licensed in another state, is also addressed in the report. GCA is currently reviewing the Commission's report, and recommendations and additional information to boards and bureaus is forthcoming. For required board member trainings, board members are required to complete orientation training within 1 year of their appointment and reappointment to the board. The final board member orientation training of this year will be held November 16th at the Department of Consumer Affairs in Sacramento. Board members are required to also complete ethics, sexual harassment prevention, and defensive driver training. A reminder regarding required trainings was emailed to all board members on September 9th, 2016. This email included details on training frequency and registration. Please contact Board and Bureau Relations if you need assistance or have any questions. Additional reminder, the Governor's executive order limiting in-state and out-of-state travel for mission-critical purposes remains in effect. Mission-critical is defined as travel directly related to enforcement activities and responsibilities auditing, revenue collection, travel required by statute, contract or executive order, and job required training necessary to maintain licensure or to hold a position. The next one is for information technology update and BREEZE. The Board of Optometry is seeing a relatively high volume of renewal applicants using the online BREEZE system. Since launch in late January, 43% of all renewals for non-RDO license types have been submitted using the online portal. This trend is increasing in recent months, as when considering only the last 3 months, August, September, and October, 55% of the renewals have come in via the online portal. Also, a continuing trend is high volume of optometrist exam applicants using the online portal to submit applications. Since launch, 82% of the optometrist exam applications have come in via the online portal. Those who choose to submit renewals online see a dramatically quicker turnover for their application approval. Of those renewals submitted online and approved since launch, 87% were processed in 1 day or less. Those who mail in their applications typically see their renewal process in 1 to 2 weeks, provided the application is complete. There are 26 outstanding requests for system changes, and 7 of those are scheduled for implementation in upcoming November 16th software release. In addition to normal maintenance, the OAS's Enterprise Project Services Office is managing the effort to move the RDO program from the medical board into Optometry BREEZE's domain. The effort can best be summarized as a mini BREEZE project, as it involves creating 4 new license types within the board, effectively doubling the board's BREEZE footprint. This effort is being led by the GCA OAS team with the assistance of the BREEZE vendor. This is the OAS's team's first foray into leading an effort of this scope. The positive progress so far is encouraging, and successful completion of this project will represent a major milestone in knowledge transfer from the BREEZE vendor to state staff. The effort is scheduled to complete in April 2017. However, BREEZE resources are extremely taxed, which makes the RDO effort susceptible to delay should critical emergencies arise that divert resources. The Department's Office of Information Services is also working with the California Department of Technology to migrate email services to an Office 365 model. The current CES platform will be retired on October 2017. The new model includes enhanced features, including increased inbox storage, availability of corporate social networking to allow collaboration across departments and locations, unlimited online meetings, video conferencing, and Skype for Business application, personal file storage, and online versions of Microsoft Office applications. For DCA organizational planning, training, and implementation. On Wednesday, September 28th, the third solid sponsored brown bag gathering for executive officers and bureau chiefs was held. The agenda included psychological safe workplaces, building a work philosophy, a peer panel, and an update on the future leadership development program. The peer panel included the executive officers of the Board of Pharmacy, Executive Director of the Medical Board of California, Registrar for the Contractor State Licensing Board, and the Deputy Director of Board Bureau Relations. The event was very highly rated by the participants and solid looks forward to holding additional brown bag gatherings in the future. Thank you, Jessica, for always joining us. DCA strategic plan. Finally, the department is developing a new strategic plan for years 2017 through 2019. One of the components of the strategic planning process is a survey of stakeholders. This survey will be distributed to stakeholders, including board members, in the upcoming weeks. Your feedback is vital, and we respectfully ask for your participation to assist us in improving the department's services. As always, if the department can be of service to the board, please let us know.
That was 2 pages?
Yeah.
It's
In little
Nice.
It's
print.
like putting the Bible on a grain of rice. It's amazing.
Does anyone have comments? We don't have anyone to answer them from DCA.
I can take any questions back to DCA.
So, Mark?
This isn't a question about the report, but the report just triggered a question about the CE that we had just a moment ago. If I'm a doctor and I submit my renewals and all that, do I certify under penalty of perjury
Yes.
that I'm up to date with my CE?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, what do you do for your senior?
Your staff will notify everybody on the board if we're due for any specific training or anything like that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we don't have to,
You know,
we
you
don't
have to
keep
use
a
the
calendar
OET.
of when things are due.
This Form 700's due,
Not till April.
Not until April.
but they emailed it. But that's
No,
only
that was
for-
a
Right,
mistake.
that was a mistake.
I recognize that.
Yeah.
It's coming back. Is there
Yes.
anything else that we should be on the lookout for?
I don't believe so, other than the mandatory classes that were mentioned in the report, but I can send out an email to all board members too to clarify if anything is coming up that they need to take.
How often is the driver's ed thing? Is that
Yes.
once every 4 years?
Two, I
Two.
Is
thought.
there 2? I've only taken it once, I think.
You might be due.
So I can research that and get back to you.
I don't know if the state has actually
You guys go.
I've only taken it once.
Okay.
Well, we should be checking all that for you.
Any other questions, comments to take back to DCA? No. So we'll move on to the executive officer's report.
Okay, so for A, the Breeze discussion, I'm going to turn it over, the Breeze database, I'm going to turn it over to Rob to provide an update as he is the Breeze guru at this point.
Thank you. I think you covered a lot of things with the DCA report, unfortunately. So, as she was saying, the online applicants that we've got for optometrist has remained strong. The renewals and applications we've gotten online for the other 3 license types in optometry, branch office license, fictitious name permit, and statement of licensures have gone up since our last board meeting as well. So we're really meeting that performance target. As far as the fictitious name permits and branch office licenses go, we only had a couple renewals done, but there's kind of an asterisk next to that just because those expire at the same time every year. So January 31st and February 1st is when they expire. Obviously, Breeze went online on January 19th of this year, so the renewals that go out typically 97 days before that didn't have any of the information about Breeze on them. So I think the next coming weeks are going to be really telling as far as the renewals go, because all the renewals are going to have information about Breeze. So I'm assuming that for those 2 license types, the branch office and fictitious name permits, the renewals done online are going to pretty much skyrocket. So we're going to be looking at that for the next few weeks. I think that's a big one. We met with Dr. Hoppy yesterday, and she got on board. She onboarded her license with Breeze. She expressed how happy she was with the program. She's been talking to her students about the program as well, and I think it's been getting positive reviews all around. I've noticed just a change in the office as far as the amount of phone calls we're getting from the public with issues that they might be having with Breeze. We'll get them once in a while, but not very often. And so staff, if someone's really adamant about not onboarding their license or renewing through Breeze because they're unfamiliar with it, there are a couple of instances where we have just walked them through the process, and then they've been really thankful about it. But we really want to try and get them to get online with Breeze and renew that way. She mentioned the RDO program moving over, under our domain in Breeze, and then having an online component, which is really going to be a huge deal for the RDO program, since they'll be able to apply and renew online. They've really been on the ball, the OAS team and the Breeze team, as far as getting this going and asking any questions, and we've really had to be in open communication with them to get this going, because they do, like she said, it's supposed to be online in April, so it's coming up here pretty soon. And I know that she's an enforcement analyst now, but Kelly Flores has been really instrumental in helping that process along, reviewing the profile reports for the RDO program. Jessica, obviously, as well. I think when I was on baby bonding, both of them were really helping that process along. So that's the big piece of the Breeze update, I think, because it's really exciting that we'll have RDO program under us and then online as well. So.
Any questions?
Sure.
So, sounds like Breeze is going well.
Yeah.
I've personally used it and like it. It doesn't take rulemaking, does it, for us to be more encouraging to the users to use it? So when I was using it, I didn't feel like we did a really good job in encouraging it. So for example, I just did an FNP recently, and I could see that there's an option of submitting the paperwork or doing it online, but I knew what was better, obviously, but I didn't feel compelled if I didn't know that this is going to save me time, it's going to be easier for me, and there's a chance that there's also going to be faster processing.
Right, and I know that's something that we need to update on our website regardless, and I know that with any phone calls that we get regarding applications and applying, we are really steering them towards Breeze, because it really is a win-win. I mean, it's going to be a win for the licensee, the applicant, and it's a win for the staff. So we are really promoting that with any contact we have with consumers, and then obviously we're going to start putting out some more materials, and I think something through the listserv system as well, since I think we've got about 6,000 subscribers on that.
And in addition to that, we're working on identifying a report for all of the new renewals that are, renewal transactions are generated the 90 days in advance. So when that happens, we can get a report of that and send it out to their emails with a link to Breeze to encourage them to renew online and give them all that information and encouragement.
Maybe we should have it on a tagline on everything that public outreach does or any of the committees.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's a breeze.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I have a question too. Rob,
Yes.
when I changed my main location of practice a couple months ago, and I went in circles on the Breeze program trying to figure out what is it. It's not the branch office license. There's another one that you
Statement of licensure?
Yes, could not find that anywhere on Breeze, and I ended up calling you, and you helped me with that. You kind of took care of it behind the scenes for me, but I was like, there was no statement of licensure option on there. You could do a branch office license, but that's
On
not
your actual
on the Breeze.
on your dashboard when you
Yes.
logged in.
Yes.
Yeah, it should be there as a drop-down option.
Yeah, it's
Usually in the
not.
profile. Okay.
Yeah, I went up to a couple different computers, so I just didn't know if there was some glitch in the system, if it was on my end, or what, but I could not get my statement of licensure option to come up.
You didn't happen to take any screenshots of that or anything?
Of course not.
I mean, because and that's one of the things that we're working on is I mean, we can still raise tickets on these. So if there are issues that come up,
You have to onboard it as well. Right? So if she has
right? But I don't know if were you on board. I mean, did you already have the statement of licensure, or was it one that you were applying for?
I was applying for it.
Okay, so it was brand new. Yeah, that option should be there. But like I said, if any issues do come up, we are raising tickets, and then they're basically testing them on the back end, and then they come to me to test to ensure that they have been implemented. But that's a constant process. Like she reported, there are, I think she said 26 tickets still in play, and there's always going to be more, but there hasn't been really anything that's stopped us dead in our tracks, which I think is the big worry with a new system. And we haven't really run into that, which is, I think, great news, and it's kind of attributed to all the participation that Jessica had years and years ago in designing those profile reports and making sure that it captures everything so we don't run into these big, brick walls.
But I will say licensure renewal was exceedingly easy.
Perfect.
Best it's ever been. Thank you
Excellent.
very much, everybody. Jessica.
All right, so moving to the budget item, members, before you see two charts, one for the RDO program, one for optometry, that was provided by budgets recently. So in there is a summary of where optometry and the RDO expenditures were for all of 15-16. So the first slide is showing you both programs, just an overall summary of where we were and how we reverted 42% for the RDO program and 19.9% for optometry into the reserve fund. And the actual revenue you can see for both programs are over what we brought in. So that shows the structural imbalance that we have. For the optometry program, you can see in the fund condition how the reserve is over the statutory limit right now. However, because of the structural imbalance, it is decreasing, and with additional incurred costs, it's going to decrease even faster. So we're going to get down to that 6% rather quickly. And so if you have any questions with that, let me know. But again, we're going to have the budget office come out in January and present an overview of both the expenditures and the fund conditions of both programs.
Jessica,
Yes.
since this is being recorded and televised, can you state again how dire the situation is with the RDO budget in
Yeah,
in clear terms?
I can do my best. So the fund condition, you can see that's this one. You can see it going negative into negative 4 months in reserve. So the money is not going to be there to sustain the program, which is why the governor's office, they recognized that and they moved quickly to put that into the trailer bill, or I'm sorry, to the bill 10, I'm thinking on the 1039. 1039. So those are going to go into effect January 1 to help with that fund. What I want to clarify is the budget and the fund are completely separate things. You see that for the RDO, it's reporting that we reverted the budget we reverted funds into the budget, but that's not the money that is sustaining the program. So just because we have the money or don't have the money doesn't mean we have authority to spend the money. So we would have to adjust the budget to do that. So I don't know if I made it more confusing, but any questions?
Well,
I'm trying,
if the changes that we're advocating don't happen, is the situation bad?
yes,
Thank you.
the fund is gone.
But this was a lengthy topic when we met with the finance group the other day. So they are very well aware, and they're working very closely with us to make sure that we don't have any issues.
Yeah.
Donna, are they recommending any intermediary actions that we take or holdover, since the state process tends to lag a little bit? Is there anything we need to do, just be aware of?
So right now we've implemented,
No, go ahead.
Right now we've implemented, it's called immediate cost savings. So when we get close to that negative, DCA budget says, okay, you have to implement immediate cost savings. So for the RDO program, how it's really impacting it is we got approval for the 0.5 office technician and a 0.6 special investigator. So we have the approval to fill those positions, but we don't have the money to do it because we have to do the immediate cost savings because we wouldn't be able to sustain it. So that's the intermediary, the kind of what we can do right now to do it. Once the fund can sustain itself, then we'll fill those positions.
Is there anything more than holding back on hiring?
we're, for the RDO program, that's the
only
meeting
thing that we
right
need
now.
to do at this point. I just don't want to be caught flat-footed in a couple of months. Okay.
So,
And as I said, each month they
Okay.
go over.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
not like we're suddenly gonna think, oh my God, what happened?
No.
Every single month they meet with us, and
Great.
as the liaison, I'm included in those meetings.
Wonderful.
so if those cost-saving measures are forced upon us, it would seriously impact our ability to protect the public, is that right?
So the RDO program itself doesn't have those positions right now. So it's not filled, so it's not doing more consumer harm by not filling those positions. What it equates to is our staff fielding those calls. So when we get any phone calls for the RDO program, it's our staff that is answering it. By our staff, I mean funded by the Optometry Fund. So the consumers are still being protected because we're still providing that service.
But then it's taking away time for you to do optometry stuff,
Yeah.
because we're doing.
So there would be
Correct.
a detrimental effect for consumer protection.
Any other questions for the budget?
And I hope you like the new format. Instead of that list of numbers, I thought this would.
Thanks for
And
that.
there's some purple in here too, Mark.
Or we thought.
All right, so the next topic is for personnel. I'm going to turn that over to Rob, who is in charge of managing all of personnel.
So I think during the last board meeting, we're still in the process of hiring for our 2 vacancies. One was the management services technician over the RDO program. The other is an enforcement analyst. On here, I think it says we were kind of in the process of it, but we have made offers, and both of those positions are filled, and the start date is Monday. So we're pretty excited about that. The MST position is being filled by Jessica Swan, so we're going to have another Jessica in the office. And she comes to us from the California Benefits Exchange. Obviously, being in that position, she already has exposure to processing applications, dealing with applicants, calling over the phone, which is really something we were looking for, since that program is dealing with over 4,000 registrants. The enforcement analyst position is being filled by Matt McKinney, and he comes to us from the Landscape Architects Technical Committee, LATC, and he was an enforcement officer there, so he already has the experience of dealing with complaints, carrying a caseload, dealing with disciplinary actions. So we're happy to have him on board. We're expecting he's going to be able to hit the ground running in that position. He was also pretty excited about the duties that were on that position's duty statement, because it does include continuing education audits as well. That's part of it. And then he expressed interest just in the board functions in general. He wanted to learn about licensing, policy. So we're pretty excited to have him on board because he's very curious about the board. And I think he's excited to have a bigger caseload as well, which is he's going to get it. So we haven't been completely staffed, I think, in a while. So it is a really exciting time that we are fully staffed. I think we're going to be able to easily meet and exceed our performance targets, and that is going to allow us to also take on projects that we may have put a pin in. So we're going to be able to increase our enforcement outreach, do peer reviews, licensing audits, cross-training. So there's a lot of projects that I know that Jessica and I have discussed that we want to get on, start doing this, and I think having a full staff is going to really allow us to do that. So pretty exciting. Yes?
Question, so Rob, you mentioned you have an RDO management position starting on Monday. How will that then help with the workload that the 2 individuals, who will be managed?
No, it's a management services technician. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
MST.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically Kelly. It's the position that Kelly Flores was in, where she was handling all the applications. It's her
Okay.
position because she was promoted over to enforcement.
So we do have someone assigned to the RDO program.
Oh yeah.
It's just a matter of the scope of all the services we need will not be met in the short term, perhaps in the longer term.
Correct.
But in the interim, can this individual help with some of the workload or fielding phone calls or something to offset the optometry impact?
Yes, in fact, all staff has been willing to do that, and I was kind of going to mention it for enforcement, but the great thing about the staff that we have right now is they're so willing to kind of go outside their wheelhouse, where before it was I only do enforcement, I only do licensing, and there wasn't a lot of cross-training there, or admin. What our staff is now doing is helping wherever there needs to be help, and that is a great opportunity for the cross-training for them, so they know how everything works together, and it also helps with any kind of backlogs that we have or any problems that we're having. Staff is really jumping in to help with all of it.
So you've created a team, Jessica.
Yeah, it's great.
Congratulations.
Big yes, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
There's a little bit more as far as professional development of staff. We continue to highlight the importance of training. I mean, I think that's something when I first started at the board that wasn't pushed, I think, as hard as we're doing it right now. And I know that we were going to put, I think we're waiting on some more details, but the difference, I think, in the last year and a half, as far as the attendance of training by staff, has gone up just significantly compared to what it was before, because we're putting a real focus on that. While I was on leave, there was a course, I think, during the individual development plans that we were on the lookout for called Dealing with Difficult People, and it finally came up on the calendar, and a lot of our staff signed up for it and attended it, because we want them to be able to I mean, it speaks for itself, deal with difficult people. When you have a member of the public who's calling in and they're a bit irate about something, you know, you might be convinced to mirror that personality, but that's not something that we want to do. We want to make sure that we're giving the best customer service possible in all of our encounters. And I think with that course, some staff is taking the Toastmasters workshops to work on their public speaking, which I think also works on just the overall confidence that the air of confidence when they communicate, and it translates over the phone, I think, when you're talking to members of the public as well. So I'm hoping with those kind of trainings, our positive survey results are going to go up. We're going to receive more positive recognition from the public, because we do receive letters all the time saying this person was wonderful, and I love hearing that. You know, when they're saying that this person really helped me and they were wonderful, you know, a joy to work with. So those types of trainings, we're definitely trying to push. There was another pretty intense training that we had our licensing lead, Charles McGirt, and our enforcement lead, Cherie Kimball, take in, I think it was August and September. There were two of these that were put on, and we can only send one member, so we decided to send the two leads who are ultimately responsible for coming up with statistics and reports for us on a monthly basis. So it was a reporting class that was a week long, and it went over our Qbert system, which is the new reporting system which came along through Breeze, and Qbert stands for Quality Business Interactive Reporting Tool. I know that everything's acronyms, but that's for that one. So it's a pretty in-depth system, which is why there was a week-long course. And I think their outlook after taking that course was basically they're going to be able to present much more professional-looking stats and reports for us to look at, and then they're going to be able to do them in a much more expedient fashion. So really useful. I've used the reporting tool a couple times, and it's really powerful. There's a lot to it. So I think when they offer that course again in the spring, I'll end up trying to take it. And then, of course, I want to disseminate what I learned as much as I can to other staff, just because if that lead is not available and I need stats, someone else can kind of fill in and still produce those stats. There was, I think you mentioned during the DCA report, the brown bag events. Jessica said she attended one, I think, last month. I was still on leave, I just wasn't here at all. And she said it was a really wonderful experience. Obviously, that's where managers can come together, executive officers, and really not only have questions answered. I guess they had a panel of veteran executive officers who had questions posed to them, and they'd answer them, which is awesome. But I think it's a great opportunity to network, which I know she's always been a big proponent of. And I think in what we're dealing with right now with Sunset, this is a great opportunity for networking. I mean, we've already talked to several executive officers who are currently up for Sunset or who just went through it. We've talked to them about the reports and commented at some of them how great they look. We've gotten tips on where to obtain different types of information. So these are just a great opportunity, which I know that we're going to continue to take advantage of as managers, just these networking opportunities. I'm trying to think what else. There was also the Leadership Academy trainings, which I think we discussed at the previous board meetings. Jessica and I are almost done with those. I think it's 9 total courses. and they offer them a couple times a year, so we're almost done with those. But any additional trainings that come along from managers, we're going to take advantage of. And I also want to take advantage of the courses such as dealing with difficult people and the reports training, just so I can be as well-rounded as possible. There was one other update. We did receive a nice, I guess, kind of feather in our cap for our lead enforcement analyst, and myself and Jessica are all members of the Disability Advisory Committee for DCA. Jessica's actually the co-chair of the committee, so we kind of had to join. But it's no. So basically, it's a committee that helps disseminate information and creates awareness about avenues and opportunities for those with disability within the state and even outside of the state, trying to get in. And it was a very successful last fiscal year for the Disability Advisory Committee. So we received a letter from the director of DCA just thanking us for our contributions and our participation in the committee. So it was a nice piece of recognition. Yes.
So here's your way to go with all of the development training that is going on for staff. Thank you. It's been years. I don't remember when I first started, we didn't have any.
No.
No, we've come a long way. It's good to see that
Huge.
we're investing in the employees, and we're breaking down the silos, and we're cross-networking with other departments, which is only going to benefit this organization and ultimately the consumers. Kudos to you and your staff.
Thank you. All right, well, members, considering that we are breaking for lunch at noon, I'm going to go, oh, I'm sorry.
There's 2 comments here.
So I just need a little bit more on the advisory for the disabilities. You're just doing it for internal use, is that correct, or is it for more than that?
For DCA.
Okay.
Yeah, for DCA, and then we'll have information go out to managers and staff within DCA.
Okay.
And then I think there is some external stuff as well. But yeah, I think the majority of the information is for DCA.
So I'd like to expand on Sid and Donna's comments. I'm a relatively new member, and I didn't have very much experience under the former administration of the organization. But I do sense a greater sense among staff of investment in the organization, enthusiasm about the jobs, and greater professional development and desire to learn out of the box. I think this is something that should be mentioned in our sunset report, possibly in the staff development portion, maybe others. And in the sunset report, I know I'm jumping ahead, but I think it's relevant to this point here. The sunset report often seems like it's in the voice of the organization as the whole. It says the board does this, the board does that. But on this area of staff development, if there could be some sort of statement that the board members have recognized that the new administration has made changes to increase the development and the professional development of the staff to do more with less resources. Something acknowledging that we as representatives of the public, the professional and the public members, as observers for the people, have recognized that this is happening within the administration of the organization. I think something like that would be very helpful for the sunset report.
And we could put that in there when we go over the sunset agenda item, where we could put that in.
So I have an additional compliment, and that is, it sounds easy when you say it, but I appreciate the fact that both of you have led the team to stay focused on our core responsibility, and that is to the consumers. And the development was designed to enhance their ability to serve that person, that group of people. And I appreciate that, because sometimes we talk about those things, but we don't necessarily go to the length of identifying specific courses and highlighting that and motivating staff to actually want to do those trainings. So it was, I know, arduous road to move the group to that level. I just want to let both of you know that I noticed that too, and I really appreciate that.
Maybe you should come up with a little certificate or something from the board for the staff.
The staff is awesome right now.
just,
That's a really great.
and hang it in the office and we all sign it.
Should also send something to the director's office.
Thank you. Great point. Great point, since
Yeah, great.
Should have the governor come and personally give you a medal.
Give
And I
the
can
staff
finally
a
get my
medal.
picture with him.
The medal goes to the staff. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna move fairly quickly, given that we are breaking for lunch at noon, because we have reservations. So for licensing and enforcement, rather than going point by point, I just wanna make a quick one for licensing. The one thing that's not mentioned in here that is kind of a new development is we met with Western yesterday. I also met with DCA IT Deputy Director to discuss anything that we can do to streamline the process using the technology that we have, not only with Breeze, but anything else out there like WebEx, there's a secure cloud similar to what iCloud is, but it's a secure server. So one of the things that when we met with Western yesterday, we had talked about for the licensing program, one of the biggest holdups right now is receiving those transcripts, because those transcripts come directly from the school. They mailed it to us, so it takes time in the mail. Sometimes transcripts get lost and we don't get them, and there's a lot of negative comments being made by applicants because they're frustrated that we haven't received them yet. They have to call the school, so it's creating a lot of problems. So what we're doing, we're going to experiment with the new iCloud server to where each school is going to be given a folder and they can upload all of the transcripts there, and it's real time. So as soon as that's uploaded, then we can go and see that it's there and do it that way. So it'll cut out all of those problems.
does it parse information? Parse information is, it's reading what's in there, it picks up on keywords, and so then we'll put it in like the right folders and.
Not that I know of, but it's something that we discussed with the IT Deputy Director of what we can do with that to even make it even faster to put into the database. But we're working on that right now.
Great.
But it's super exciting.
So this is just currently a, kind of like a task.
So, well, we haven't even contacted, because this was just happening in a matter of the last couple of days that this is available. So we happened to be meeting with Western on a separate topic, and so it was just come out, what else can we do to help improve this process? So they said that they're definitely willing to do it. We haven't reached out to SCCO yet or Berkeley, but that's definitely coming. Yep. And then just any questions for licensing? Nope. Okay, and then with enforcement, the biggest thing I did want to touch on briefly is that just to acknowledge that we do have a backlog, and it's a bigger backlog than we had in the past, because this whole time we've only had one enforcement analyst, and she is, as amazing as she is, there is just so much work to do, and she's also helping with any kind of Breeze improvements. So for the enforcement side of the RDO program, she's also helping with that. So she is getting all of these cases, but now that we're fully staffed and the licensing unit staff, they're able to help with the backlog. We do anticipate that decreasing rather quickly. So that's all I have. Any
I have
questions?
questions. So in the enforcement chart, you have on the heading routine, expedite, and high.
God bless you.
What do those definitions mean, or those headings mean?
So I apologize that I didn't bring the definitions for that. I think they were provided at a prior meeting, and the request was to see how these pending cases, received cases, and closed cases correlate to those buckets.
Yes.
And so we can provide that. I don't have the exact definitions, but routine are basically if we get a normal case where there's not immediate patient harm
I get
there.
that. What's the difference between expedited and high?
So those are also, and I don't have the definitions right now, but I know that high is more of if there is consumer harm. The problem with those cases is you'll see that we have 4.
Yes.
So those 4, all of them are settlement cases,
Okay.
and they are so we received the mandatory form that they have to fill out, and this is a form that they download, and they basically give a description of what the settlement, what happened in the settlement, but it's not the actual settlement.
Settlement of a civil case.
Right, but in that description, it warrants high priority, which means it sounds like there was consumer harm here, and we need to act quickly to find out what's happening. But the difficult part with these settlements is that's all we get is that form. So then we have to contact the respondent, we have to contact the attorneys, we have to contact the patients and get more information to decide what happened. And we have to get a lot of patient records. We send those over to our experts to see if there is a substandard care. What we find with settlements is once they've settled, they're not very cooperative in providing any information because the patients are fine because they've made whole. The optometrists don't, a lot of times we don't even know who the optometrists are. I mean, there's not specific information on there. So we still rank it a high priority because based on the limited information we have, it's not good. But it could, those also typically be the longest taking cases to get through because we want to make sure we do everything we can on our end before we close that case.
Okay, good. I mean, I am not too worried because there are only four high cases, and
Right.
most of them are routine cases. So I'm okay with the backlog given the conditions that you've mentioned. What is 1010 and 1020? That's also in the license application chart. What is that? What does that number mean?
1010 is that's the request for an exam for an optometrist. Sure. So that's just how it's separated for the transaction within Breeze.
Okay. And then, so I mean, just an overall comment. I mean, when there are numbers like that or acronyms,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or have a key or a footnote or something
Right.
for us.
And I think sometimes it gets difficult because you're speaking it like it's a language. Oh, I got to get the 1010 and the 1020, and then you forget. Oh, wait, that actually means something.
Or the SLD or the NRCL.
Yeah. We'll do that.
Thank you. Purple space.
Yeah.
And put it in purple. Thank you.
How much time do I have to draw on?
Not much.
All right. Kurt, you might be the one to answer this. I was just looking about enforcement staff meeting with VSP. I think it would come as quite a surprise to some of the people that deal with a VSP audit. In some cases, it's not worth fighting VSP because it can be very expensive, and they'll just say, look, fine, take me off the panel, I'm done. I don't think those folks know that that's eventually going to come to the Board of Optometry, and they're going to probably end up being put on probation for 3 or 5 years. Is it the optometrist's position to know that he or she is potentially facing probation by just making VSP go away? I mean, in some cases, they might not have really done anything. VSP has interesting ways of determining that there's fraud. And in some cases, it really is easier just to say, you know what, I won't take VSP anymore. VSP tried that with my group. It cost us $30,000 to make them go away, but we fought it, and they were wrong. And a lot of people don't have $30,000 to throw at VSP to make something go away. And my concern is that they don't know that they're going to end up getting put on probation, and that's going to screw them up for a while. And I don't know how we notify folks that sometimes it's worth fighting it instead of just taking the easy way out.
Okay, well, is it my cue?
Yes, now it's your turn.
Okay, so a couple different things. Number one, as the board's attorney, this person to my right is vested with the discretion of the prosecution to determine whether or not whatever you did with VSP warrants going after. So there could be a situation, happens all the time in out-of-state discipline, when you get a report in, so that such and such did something in the sovereign state of Michigan, and we're like, don't care, that's a Michigan thing. Comes in here, we say we're not going after it because it's not against the law in Michigan, or it's not something that the California board or law would allow us to discipline for. The same thing with the VSP. If it comes to us, it comes to this person, I don't see it. It comes to the executive officer, she may say, number one, it was X amount of years ago, does not rise to the point of formal discipline. So there's no automatic thing that just because, there's no automatic linkage, that just because something happened with VSP, something's gonna happen to your license. So there's a causal connection that can be broken. The second thing is, speaking on a more, sort of a different temporal plane, would be, I'm not sure that it's this board's responsibility, to be candid with you, Dr. Tereski, to say, to warn a licensee that settling with VSP or not settling VSP would impact your license. Respectfully, that's a matter for those people that belong to COA, for those people that have counsel to say, hey, what's the long-term ramifications of this?
That's my question.
Yeah,
That's
and
my question. It's not the
respectfully,
board's
I don't believe it's the
responsibility.
board's responsibility to do that. I think it's the trade associations, I think it's learned people, I think that's private counsel's job. I don't think that's the board's job. I don't think the board would ever answer a question. If somebody calls up and says, do I need a license to practice? We're like, that's a yes. But as to other things about what would happen if VSP said I did this and I don't agree with them, I think I've instructed your staff, that's not something we would answer, correct?
Exactly. And for clarification purposes, whenever VSP takes any kind of action, negative action against a licensee, they are required by federal law to report to National Practitioners Data Bank. However, they are not required to report that to us. And so that's where there's a huge disconnect, because the VSP is reporting it to the National Practitioners Data Bank, but if we don't have optometrists in the continuous query option, we don't get that report. So I know when you review disciplinary orders, a lot of them are related to VSP, so there's this assumption that we get all of these reports from VSP, and that's just not the case. The case is just we have a relatively low disciplinary rate, and what you are seeing does not reflect what is going on in the entire population. So I think there's a lot more action that VSP is taking that we won't even know about unless we have that continuous query option.
I just take great umbrage with their fraud investigations.
Okay, any comments? It's after, yeah. Any public comments on this item? No? So it's after 12, so we'll come back for lunch.
Yeah. 1 o'clock.
Yeah, we'll adjourn.
We can't do sunset review before?
You got 30 seconds.
Is this recorded here, or should we take our valuables with us?
We can request it if you want.
Can we can computers?
Did she say yes? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna request that it's blocked.
All right, so I'd like to call the meeting back to order. If everyone could just take their seats. A couple of things, just a reminder, we have a call at 2 o'clock. 1:22. So a couple things. I'm going to take the agenda a little bit out of order. I'm going to do a couple of quick agenda items first, 11 and 12. Then 13, 14, 15 could have an implication on what we discussed in the sunset report, so I'm going to do those, and then we'll go to the sunset report after the call. So agenda item 11, which is an update on the RDO Advisory Committee. And Sid and I are on that committee. And so I forgot when we had a call, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had a call about this. And we had an original deadline for the flyer that we wanted to create for the 28th of October. And I just found out this week that there was a design deadline. Somebody who was supposed to be designing the flyer was out on leave, nobody said anything, so when we didn't get it by the 28th, Jessica called in and found out that this person was on leave and had it reassigned somewhere else, so hopefully we should have it in the early part of next week.
Yep.
So Sid and I talked about this, and it doesn't really need to delay the rest of our timeline by too much. What we were hoping to do is after the flyer goes out, to let it sit and receive applications for another 45 days, and that puts it right around December 15th. And it's a rolling process, so we have applications already. So she and I will start to review them to see who we might want to select for interviews. And we'll leave the deadline for applications up until about December 15th. We're reaching out to a lot of different groups, making sure we get an ethnically diverse outreach. So we're trying to get everybody that we possibly can. And then Sid and I have a deadline of January 9th on deciding on who we'd like to interview and bringing an update back to the board on, what's the date, January 26th, 27th board meeting. So I wanted to bring that update then. The last thing I wanted to mention is that in terms of bringing the people back to interview in front of the full board, we probably won't do that either until the April meeting or somewhere in between January and April, depending, because it's just not enough time to give them notice on getting up to Sacramento or how are they gonna do it. And for the other interviews, not the final one, but we're also gonna utilize technology if this works out with not Skype. WebEx. So I even use WebEx, I can't remember the name. So trying to use WebEx a little bit there so people don't have to come up for multiple interviews, being considerate to their financial costs and all of that. But the final interviews for the board, we feel should be in person. And so if we're not gonna conduct them until January 26th, it seems kind of challenging to say, well, you might be a finalist. So to give them a little bit more time, that was the deadline that we agreed upon. So that is did I miss anything? No. That is the update on the advisory committee. Are there any questions from anybody?
I have a couple questions.
You can ask them.
Number one, just FYI on the website, it has the deadline still as August 12th. So if people are thinking, if you're saying it's ongoing, we need to remove the deadline date, because who knows how many people. And I had also mentioned to staff that there are folks that were having problems filling it out online, and to add best done in X browser, so people knew it, and that never happened. Also looking at, I know a letter was mailed to all registered dispensing opticians, blah, 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 but have we done any public outreach yet at all?
We're waiting for this flyer to come out and to do.
Okay, because is this, because there's lists like the Chambers of Commerce, there's Junior League, Rotary, Lean In groups, I mean, there's so many different groups.
It'll go out to all of you, that's what was, so if any groups that you'd like, anybody on this board has any groups that you'd like to send them out to, let her know, because it should come out the early part of next week, and we will send it to all of them.
Well, are we gonna see the flyer and be able to make comments on the flyer? Because I have a little bit of experience in recruiting people for appointments.
We can do that. That might delay it a few days, but that's fine if you don't mind a fast turnaround time.
Well, I've offered for like 4 months to help with this, and no one's followed back on it. So the other question is, have the applicants who have applied been updated on the process? Have we sent them a letter? Have we told them what's going on? Have we done any of that kind of outreach?
Not on all of them. There's quite a few that we provided an update with, but we can send out an update to all of them.
Because I think, did we send out a letter when they applied? Thank you for applying. Appreciate your interest in the board, so that we've received your application. Did that ever go out?
No, we didn't send that letter out, but we can send that out.
Well, now I think that's a little too late. I would send out a letter to everyone and reiterate exactly what the process is. We're expecting to do interviews now. Thank you for applying, blah, blah, blah. I'm a little embarrassed that we haven't been able to get this committee up and going. It shouldn't be this difficult to appoint 5 people to an advisory board, especially when I know I had offered for months to help, and I have a huge network that I was willing to send it out to. So I would prefer that we get this going sooner rather than later. I think 45 days, waiting until April, I mean, this should be included in the January board meeting, or we have to figure out a better way to get this stuff up and going, because this was a bill that was contentious, that went through the legislature, signed by the governor, and the appearance is basically we're dragging our feet on doing what the legislature and the governor asked us to do. So I'm really disappointed that this hasn't been a top priority in getting this board appointed.
The form, the dispensing optician committee interest form, that's the one that's been redone, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm the form that we have here. I'm just wondering.
The application or
The application is not the application, it's the flyer.
It's the flyer.
The only thing I'm interested is on this part, and I don't know if it's been changed, travel and time commitment. It goes through a couple meetings, and they'll be more frequently during the first few years. Members are eligible to receive a $100 per diem for DOC participation. I think it might be worthwhile to note in there that expenses related to travel and lodging and all that will be reimbursed. Because not everybody is a wealthy optometrist where that's not a main concern. So, just something that they know it's something besides that $100 per diem.
Any other comments from the members?
And how many applicants do we have? Between public and RDOs?
We still have one public member, and I think we have roughly 40 RDO or dispensers.
So we've had zero problem on the RDO, but as a consumer board, we can't seem to get public members to be interested in this board,
On this committee.
on this committee.
Provided input in June and rewrote, or actually wrote this flyer that's going out, the state's laying it out in their format.
In June?
I started in June, and the full rewrite went in right around the beginning of October.
I just want to comment, yes, I'm pretty excited about getting, hopefully, this committee up and running, because I know there's a lot of discussion we'd like to have about the RDA program. So anything, I'd be more than willing to help out as well.
And June 21st, input was provided. I wrote the initial application, and then I took it upon myself to write the communications or marketing piece that will go to the public.
The flyer that's currently on the
Right.
website.
No, we don't know when we're gonna get it.
And provided an email list.
So, and as clarification members, this was the second go-around. The first go-around, when the board approved the form, we did submit it out to all of the board members and encourage them to also use their networks to try to get the public participation. We also contacted the governor's office and tried to tap into who they have for the governor, for the public members who are interested in serving in boards. Since then, I have had discussions with the new person who took Sonia Hughes' spot. So we're in communications as well, and it's on their radar, so they're helping identify any individuals from the public who are interested.
Yeah, I mean, the delay that's happened at the moment is because we didn't have any, we had tried the discussion in August, but we didn't have any public members at all at that point. So, and then you wanted to rework, so the initial flyer that you submitted, we wanted to rework that. So you asked to rework that, so we did, and then there was a design delay, so, I mean.
Question? Can we proceed on appointing can we proceed with the process of appointing the professional members now without waiting for the public members?
We're gonna start, that's the process.
That's the process we're already starting.
Through the resumes, and then we'll interview those. Then the public will come behind, so
Okay.
that we're
Yeah.
moving,
It's-
it's a continuous process.
Thank you.
So when do we know, what's the deadline that this is gonna be finished? I mean, I think we need to have, as a board, commit to, we want to have this committee up and running by this date.
Well, I mean, you have to be a little bit flexible, because if we bring forward candidates that, for whatever reason, you know, what if there aren't, I'm assuming with 40 applicants for RDOs, that we will get qualified applicants. But if for some reason we bring forward qualified applicants and somebody is not happy, or we're not in consensus, you have to allow for a little bit of time. That's why we wanted to bring the information to you at the January board meeting, and then not try to rush do you like these people, do you not, to move forward from there.
If the board does not want to interview the finalists, and that's one way to streamline the schedule, but we wanted to make sure that whoever the finalists were, since they're paying their own way for the interview in front of the board, to give them at least 2 weeks' notice so they can take advantage of travel costs savings, if yes.
Question and statement. Why can't the board pay for travel costs for the future? But, I mean, maybe, that's, I'll leave to the executive director. Worst case scenario, we could have a board with 2 professional members, the Board of Optometry member, and 1 public member, and the board could function,
Yeah.
What if we don't like the public?
right?
there's one, so what if for some reason we don't, it's,
Well-
you know, it's, we could do lots of different things, the point is that we just don't have those, we don't, when we were doing, so Sid and I were also on the EO appointments committee, and the number one piece of feedback we got is the number of qualified applicants, so
Sure.
we're trying to be sensitive to that piece as well.
Sure, sure.
And trying to do our due diligence with that. So yes, there's lots of things we could do. And no, I don't like the time delay either, but if you're kind of in the home stretch of it, I don't know that there's a reason to now rush it. I realize that we're trying to do something and we just want to do it well.
Okay.
So it's not a matter of trying to drag your feet or whatever. There have been hurdles that, board members brought up things like, we don't like this flyer, we want to do this again, we want better public outreach.
And I'm not speaking to the time delay, I'm just thinking like worst case scenario, let's say we get 100 public members and we decide, gee, only one of them is good. We can still start the committee going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
that's possible. It's just, we're just trying to make sure that we have a good pool
Yeah, right.
of applicants, and you have to, if board members are gonna bring up concerns that cause us to go back and rework, for example, Sid did submit a flyer in June that people wanted to change it. So if someone's asking to change something, we can't just say, well, never mind, we're in a rush to finish this, and so you did submit it. It's the flyer that's currently on there, but then there was the comment that, no, we don't like that one, we want a different flyer. So taking those into consideration, that's where we are. So any comments from the public at all?
I just have a quick question. I appreciate the timing delays and it's great to hear there's 40 RDO participants because that's actually great to hear. I was a little worried with time and RDO schedules. And I'm disappointed that we don't have public members, and however we can help with that. I can appreciate that's not an easy sell. So, because it's kind of a very unique space. But my question is sort of how you plan on with the work you're sort of alluding to over the agenda related to the RDO, and the intent of the RDO committee was to consult the board or advise the board on that work. If you're not constituting the committee in April, will that work hold until that advisory work on the RDO industry, or sort of the industry of opticianry and any changes in that, or will that work hold until that space? I just want to make sure, because that was the intent of that advisory committee, was to advise the board on, the matters in the industry. And I know there's some, I've heard comments about some discussion about wanting to take on some of those issues, and I just wanted to know how that was going to work with the timing, that's all.
The original intent was once the committee was formed, for us to start that work once it was formed. But if the board directs us to divert our resources to do that, then the staff will do that.
I was just trying to figure out that time.
I mean, we do have an optician on the board that can kind of lead that.
I understand that. I just think that 684's intent was to have that advisory body advise in those matters. So I'm not second guessing the board's ability to do that. I'm just trying to understand the timing as the RDO, the opticianry community looks to, make sure that piece of the legislation was upheld. So as those conversations are occurring. So I just wanted to check in on that.
I don't do the agenda.
I mean, it sounds like that's the intent, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the intent is for the committee, hence we haven't really.
Perfect, yeah, I just wanted to check in on the time.
Any other comments? All right, so we're at 1:37. Joanne, can we get this legislative?
Yeah.
So agenda item 12.
So
Joanne,
agenda
take it
item
away. Yeah.
12, we're looking at 3 bills, so the legislative session's over, but just to give you a recap on some of the bigger ones hitting. So the Cures database, that bill has been signed by the governor and will go into effect. This is requiring prescribers to use the Cures database once it's been certified that it's going to be working. So that will, so it's going to be law, but it's actually not going to it's not going to be in effect until the Cures system has been certified, which we don't have a date on yet. Next bill you're looking at? Yes.
On 482, I remember there was some discussion going back a year or two that optometrists might not need to be registering with Cures. Has anything changed with that, or if you have a DEA, you still have to register? Is that the way it's going to be?
Correct, yes.
And what was the final cost going to be to register with Cures?
It's already in the fees. I believe it is $6 a year, and with the renewal, since it's 2 years, it's $12. It's wrapped in.
And it's only going to be, it's only docs with, or only optometrists with DEA numbers that'll have to register, correct?
And TPA certified, but yes.
Well, it's.
Wait, and TPA certified?
If they are TPA certified and above, and if they have a DEA number, then they have to register.
Okay, yeah, but we're assuming you wouldn't have a need for a DEA number if you were.
Clarify.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, next one, 622. This is the scope bill. As it was discussed previously, this bill did die in committee. Just a heads up for board members, it's very likely to appear in the next legislative sessions. We don't know what form it's going to be in yet, but it's definitely something that's not going away. Looking at the third one, CSB 1039 Hill Bill. This is the one that had the RDO fee structure in it. As previously mentioned, this goes into effect January 1. So this has the floor and the ceiling that the board had voted on in May.